Explore the complete collection of Kennedy half-dollar coins, from 1964 to modern issues. Discover rare and valuable coins, mint errors, proof sets, and high-grade examples that collectors and investors seek worldwide. Learn the history of each coin, their hidden value, and which years or mint marks could be worth millions. Perfect for coin enthusiasts, rare coin collectors, and investors looking to understand which Kennedy half-dollar coins hold extraordinary worth. The Kennedy half-dollar is not just a coin. It is an emotional artifact born from one of the most dramatic moments in American history. When President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, the nation was shaken, and within months, the United States Mint transformed grief into metal by creating a coin that would forever carry his image. This decision gave the Kennedy half-dollar a symbolic power that goes far beyond its face value. By 1971, the Kennedy half-dollar entered a new and controversial phase. This year marked the first time the coin was struck entirely without silver for circulation, making a turning point in U.S. coinage history. Many collectors consider 1971 a make-or-break year because it separates the silver era from the modern copper-nickel era. What makes the 1971 Kennedy half-dollar fascinating is not what it contains, but what it represents. It reflects a time when inflation, metal shortages, and economic change reshaped American money forever. Coins from this year were produced in massive numbers, yet hidden among them are pieces that challenge everything people believe about modern coins. Most 1971 Kennedy half-dollars you find today are worth only face value or slightly more. However, collectors do not chase ordinary coins. They hunt for the extraordinary, coins that escape the minting process with unusual characteristics, mistakes, or near-perfect preservation. In the world of numismatics, condition is power. A 1971 Kennedy half-dollar preserved in absolute mint state perfection, untouched by circulation, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. When graded at the highest levels, such coins become rare survivors of industrial mass production. The real legends begin with mint errors. Coins struck off-center, on the wrong metal, or with dramatic doubling, can become priceless to the right buyer. A genuine extreme mint error from 1971 can command shocking prices because it represents a mistake that was never meant to exist. Some stories speak of 1971 Kennedy half-dollars struck on silver planchets by accident. While these cases are extraordinarily rare and heavily debated, a confirmed example would instantly become a six-figure treasure, not because of silver alone, but because of its impossibility. Collectors are not just buying metal. They are buying probability. The lower the chance of a coin's existence, the higher its value climbs. That is why a single verified anomaly can outperform thousands of ordinary coins combined. Million-dollar valuations do not come from normal circulation coins. They come from unique specimens, coins that are one-of-one, documented, authenticated, and desired by elite collectors who compete not with money, but with legacy. The phrase million-dollar coin often fuels imagination, but in reality, such values require perfection, rarity, and historical importance combined into one object. Without all three, even an old coin remains just a coin. Many people unknowingly spend potentially valuable coins because they do not understand what to look for. Weight differences, unusual color, sharp doubling in letters, or missing design elements can signal something extraordinary hiding in plain sight. The Kennedy half-dollar attracts powerful collectors because it symbolizes leadership, loss, and transition. Coins tied to emotional national moments often outperform others because humans value meaning as much as rarity. From a historical perspective, the 1971 issue tells the story of America stepping away from precious metal money. It marks the moment when currency fully became symbolic rather than intrinsic, making surviving anomalies from this era deeply important. High-end collectors do not rush. They verify, authenticate, and preserve. A coin suspected of being rare should never be cleaned, polished, or altered, because one careless action can erase millions in potential value. Professional grading is the gatekeeper of fortune. Without certification, even a remarkable coin remains a rumor. With it, the coin becomes a documented asset recognized worldwide. The dream of becoming rich overnight from a coin is powerful, but patience is what turns discovery into destiny. Many legendary coins sat unnoticed for decades before the world understood their importance. Market value is shaped by demand, not hype. When collectors compete, prices explode. When interest fades, even rare coins can sleep quietly in collections. The 1971 Kennedy half dollar is not a guaranteed treasure, but it is a gateway into understanding how rarity is born. It teaches that value is not about age alone, but about survival, error, and story. Some fortunes are found, not created. History shows that ordinary people have stumbled upon extraordinary coins simply because they looked closely while others did not. If you believe you hold something unusual, silence is wisdom. Selling too quickly or to the wrong buyer can destroy the future of a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Coins do not promise wealth, but they reward knowledge. Those who study history, minting processes, and collector behavior place themselves ahead of chance. The power of the Kennedy half dollar lies in its ability to turn curiosity into obsession and metal into memory. That is why collectors never stop searching. In the end, the true value of a 1971 Kennedy half dollar is not measured only in dollars. It is measured in how rare your example is, how perfect its condition remains, and whether it carries a story that no other coin can tell. And if fate has placed such a coin in your hands, remember this. Great fortunes are not spent quickly. They are recognized slowly, protected carefully, and revealed only when the moment is right. The 1972 Kennedy half dollar belongs to a quiet but powerful chapter of American coin history, a time when coins were no longer made of precious metal, yet still carried enormous emotional and symbolic weight. By this year, the Kennedy design had already become deeply embedded in the national consciousness, no longer new, but no less meaningful. When the United States Mint struck Kennedy half dollars in 1972, America itself was changing. The optimism of the early 1960s had faded. Economic pressures were rising, and the idea of money was shifting from substance to trust. The coin reflected this transformation, becoming a mirror of its era rather than a relic of the past. Unlike earlier Kennedy halves, the 1972 issue was produced entirely for circulation and collectors at the same time. This dual purpose created a strange paradox. Millions were made, yet truly exceptional examples will become incredibly scarce over time. Most people assume rarity is about low mintage, but in modern coin history, rarity is often about survival. Coins that were saved, protected, and never touched by circulation quietly separated themselves from the rest, even as millions were spent and worn down. The 1972 Kennedy half dollar was born into heavy use. Banks distributed them, stores handled them, and the public treated them like ordinary change. This widespread circulation is exactly what made Flawless Survivors so elusive decades later. Collectors know that perfection in a mass-produced coin is unnatural. When a coin escapes scratches, bag marks, and handling damage, it becomes an anomaly. In the highest conditions, a 1972 Kennedy half dollar transforms from common currency into a collector's prize. Beyond condition, the real mystique begins with minting irregularities. Errors created in the chaos of industrial production are not planned, repeated, or predictable. When such an error survives unnoticed, it becomes a historical accident frozen in metal. Some 1972 Kennedy half dollars display striking anomalies that separate them from ordinary examples. These coins challenge expectations and ignite bidding wars, not because they were meant to exist, but because they were never meant to. The idea of a $1 million coin does not come from fantasy alone. In numismatics, unique pieces with extreme rarity, undeniable authenticity, and powerful demand have reached astonishing prices, even when their metal content is ordinary. Value at this level is not created by the mint. It is created by collectors. When two determined collectors want the same coin and know it cannot be replaced, money becomes secondary to ownership. The Kennedy half dollar carries an emotional charge few U.S. coins can match. It represents a fallen leader, a national turning point, and a promise of remembrance. That emotional gravity fuels long-term demand across generations. In 1972, the coin was already history in motion. It carried the face of a president remembered not for policy alone, but for possibility. That symbolism gives the coin a narrative depth that collectors instinctively respond to. Condition alone can separate a face value coin from a 5-figure collectible. When combined with an unusual strike, wrong planchet, or dramatic visual abnormality, the price ceiling disappears. Stories of unimaginable wealth often begin with disbelief. Many of the most valuable coins ever discovered were once dismissed, spent, or stored without recognition. Knowledge arrives later and value follows. The danger for any potential treasure lies in impatience. Cleaning, polishing, or selling a coin without understanding its nature can erase its future instantly. Coins reward restraint, not urgency. Authentication is the moment when myth becomes reality. Until a coin is examined, verified, and preserved, it exists in a state of possibility rather than fact. That moment of confirmation can change everything. The 1972 Kennedy half-dollar reminds collectors that history does not always announce itself. Sometimes it hides quietly among ordinary objects, waiting for someone to look closer. Coins like this are not investments in the traditional sense. They are long games played across decades, shaped by culture, memory, and scarcity rather than markets alone. The dream of overnight fortune is powerful, but the truth is more poetic. Wealth from coins is often a reward for curiosity, patience, and respect for history. Many people hold coins without realizing they hold stories. The difference between a spender and a discoverer is not luck, but attention. The Kennedy half-dollar stands as proof that modern coins are not worthless by default. Even in an age of mass production, exceptions exist, and exceptions are where legends are born. A truly extraordinary 1972 Kennedy half-dollar would not just be valuable, it would be irreplaceable. And in numismatics, irreplaceability is the strongest currency of all. This is why collectors say never to dismiss a coin too quickly. The surface tells one story, but history often hides beneath it. If a coin has survived untouched, misunderstood, and preserved against odds, it carries more than metal. It carries time itself. And if such a coin ever passes through your hands, remember this. Fortunes are not always found in gold or silver. Sometimes they are found in understanding what everyone else overlooked. The 1988 Kennedy half-dollar belongs to a period of American coinage that many people underestimate. And that misunderstanding is exactly where its mystery begins. By the late 1980s, half-dollars were no longer common in everyday transactions, slowly slipping out of public hands and into quiet obscurity. This coin carries the same powerful portrait of John F. Kennedy, a face that had already lived on American money for more than 2 decades. Yet in 1988, that image felt almost distant to public, even as its historical weight continued to grow in the minds of collectors. America in 1988 was moving fast. Digital technology was emerging, paper money dominated commerce, and coins like the Kennedy half-dollar were increasingly ignored. When people stop paying attention to something, history has a way of hiding rare survivors inside the ordinary. The 1988 Kennedy half-dollar was struck in a world that no longer needed it. Banks ordered fewer, stores handled them less, and the public rarely carried them. This limited use created a strange contradiction. The coin existed, but it was not truly alive in circulation. Because fewer people cared, fewer people preserved them carefully. Coins were tossed into drawers, jars, and storage boxes without thought. Over time, most suffered marks, dulling, and damage that erased any chance of future distinction. True rarity does not always come from low production numbers. Sometimes it comes from neglect. When a coin survives neglect in perfect condition, it becomes something extraordinary simply because so few others did. The idea of unimaginable value begins with condition. A flawless 1988 Kennedy half-dollar, untouched by circulation, untouched by human hands, exists against the odds. In a mass-produced world, perfection becomes an accident, not an intention. Collectors understand that the highest grades are not just measurements, but statements of survival. A coin that remains sharp, brilliant, and undisturbed decades later is proof that time failed to harm it. Beyond condition lies the realm of minting anomalies. Every mint operates like a living machine, and machines are imperfect. When something goes wrong, the result is a coin that should never have existed. An unusual strike, an unexpected surface, or a dramatic visual irregularity can elevate an ordinary 1988 Kennedy half-dollar into an object of obsession. Such coins are not valuable because they are old, but because they are singular. Stories of million-dollar coins are born from uniqueness, not promises. When a coin becomes one of one, its value is no longer tied to face value or metal content. It becomes tied to desire. Collectors at the highest level do not ask what a coin is worth. They ask what it means and whether it can ever be replaced. When the answer is no, numbers stop having limits. The Kennedy half dollar holds emotional power that modern designs rarely achieve. It represents loss, hope, and a moment when America froze in time. That emotional gravity quietly increases its long-term appeal. By 1988, the Kennedy design was no longer new, but familiarity does not weaken significance. In many cases, it deepens it. The longer an image survives, the stronger its connection becomes. Coins from overlooked years often surprise the market later. When attention shifts and collectors realize what was ignored, prices can rise suddenly and dramatically. The fantasy of becoming wealthy overnight from a coin exists because it has happened before. Not often, not easily, but undeniably. History remembers exceptions, not the averages. What destroys potential faster than anything else is haste. Cleaning a coin, polishing it, or selling it without understanding its nature can erase its future in seconds. Coins reward patience and punishment ignorance. A potentially extraordinary 1988 Kennedy half dollar must be protected, not tested. Authentication is the moment when imagination meets reality. Until then, a coin exists in a state of possibility. After that moment, it becomes part of documented history. Market value is not controlled by logic alone. It is driven by competition, scarcity, and emotion. When collectors compete, prices can reach levels that surprise even experts. The half dollar itself is a forgotten denomination, and forgotten things often hide the greatest stories. The 1988 issue stands quietly among them, waiting for attention. Modern coins are often dismissed as worthless, yet history shows that today's ordinary objects can become tomorrow's legends. The real power of the 1988 Kennedy half dollar is not in guaranteed wealth, but in potential. Potential is what fuels discovery, study, and obsession. Every great coin story begins the same way, with someone who looked closer when others did not. If a coin has survived untouched, unrecognized, and preserved through decades of indifference, it carries more than metal. It carries improbability. And if such a coin ever rests in your hands, remember this: fortunes are not always found in gold or silver. Sometimes they are found in understanding time, history, and rarity before the world catches up. That is the quiet, dangerous, and fascinating power of the 1988 Kennedy half dollar. The 1997 Kennedy half dollar is more than just a coin. It is a bridge between history and the present, a silent witness to decades of American life. By this year, the Kennedy half dollar had long since transitioned from everyday currency to a collectible symbol, quietly carrying the legacy of a president who never left public imagination. When this coin was struck, it was produced in a world that had largely forgotten a half dollar. Few banks distributed them, and most Americans rarely handled one. Yet this obscurity would later become its greatest asset for collectors who understood the value of rarity. The face of John F. Kennedy on the 1997 coin remained unchanged, serene, and commanding. His image had already become iconic, familiar to generations. Yet each coin still carried the weight of national memory. Owning one was not just about metal. It was about connection. Unlike older issues, the 1997 Kennedy half dollar contained no silver, consisting instead of a copper-nickel-clad composition. To the untrained eye, this made it ordinary. But for collectors, ordinary is often the perfect camouflage for extraordinary examples hidden among millions. Mass production in 1997 meant that most coins entered circulation, and most would eventually show wear. Yet somewhere quietly, a small number of coins escaped human hands, remaining in mint condition. These survivors would later command attention and admiration. Condition is everything in the world of rare coins. A pristine 1997 Kennedy half dollar, sharp, unblemished, and untouched by circulation, can easily surpass its face value by hundreds or even thousands of times. In coins, perfection is the ultimate anomaly. Beyond condition, mint errors create legends. Striking mistakes, doubling, off-center images, and wrong planchets turn ordinary coins into singular treasures. When one of these anomalies survives unnoticed, it becomes a story in metal. Collectors prize anomalies because they represent something the mint never intended. They are accidents frozen in time, defying mass production and industrial uniformity. The rarer the accident, the higher its value climbs. $1 million coin does not emerge from a mint. It emerges from desire, recognition, and competition. When only one exists in the world, the chase begins, and value ceases to be measured in dollars. It becomes measured in rarity, history, and exclusivity. Many people overlook the 1997 issue because they assume modern coins cannot be valuable. History proves them wrong. Even recent coins, when preserved perfectly or born an anomaly, can achieve staggering prices. Emotional resonance amplifies value. The Kennedy half-dollar does not just represent money. It represents memory, loss, leadership, and an era that continues to fascinate. Collectors pay for history as much as for metal. By 1997, the half-dollar had become a collector's item more than a practical currency. This subtle shift in usage created the conditions for extraordinary coins to survive, while ordinary ones faded into everyday hands. Potential wealth is hidden in plain sight. Coins discarded in drawers, passed through hands without attention, or forgotten in collections often carry secrets that only time reveals. The 1997 Kennedy half-dollar is one such coin. Mint marks, sharpness of detail, and surface quality determine the highest grades. A coin in flawless condition can become a symbol of excellence, admired not just for value, but for the improbability of its survival. Stories of overnight fortune from coins exist, but they are rare. True value emerges from recognition, knowledge, and the right timing. A coin must be understood before it can be treasured. Cleaning or mishandling a coin can destroy its potential. A 1997 Kennedy half-dollar that could be $1 million rarity becomes ordinary in seconds if treated carelessly. Patience and preservation are essential. Authentication is critical. A coin must be verified and documented before the market recognizes its true worth. Until then, it exists in a liminal state between possibility and reality. Market forces play a dramatic role in coin value. When collectors compete for a singular high-grade coin, prices escalate far beyond expectation. The same coin could have sat unnoticed for decades before one person saw its true importance. The Kennedy half-dollar is a reminder that familiarity does not negate rarity. Even a coin produced in large numbers can become extraordinary if it survives in perfect form or possesses a minting anomaly. The 1997 issue is a quiet example of how modern coins can achieve legendary status. Those who study coin history understand that today's ordinary currency may become tomorrow's treasure. Holding a Kennedy half-dollar is holding a moment in history. The 1997 coin connects its owner to both the memory of a president and the evolution of American currency. In coin collecting, attention is wealth. Observing details others ignore, preserving coins others discard, and recognizing potential where others see nothing is how fortunes are born. The 1997 Kennedy half-dollar demonstrates that value is not always obvious. Its true worth lies in its rarity, its condition, its story, and the market's recognition of those elements combined. And if a coin of this kind were to pass through your hands today, it could represent unimaginable opportunity. The right coin, in the right condition, with the right story, can indeed become a fortune that transforms lives. The ultimate lesson is that coins like the 1997 Kennedy half-dollar are not just currency. They are history, rarity, and possibility, waiting for someone patient and knowledgeable enough to recognize their true power.